Today I'm going to be showing you how to fix an HDMI failure for a Panasonic plasma with model number TC-P65VT50. The issue we're experiencing with this one specifically is HDMI 1 is not working. 2, 3, and 4, however, are. So we're going to take a closer look at that main board where the HDMI port is located and see if we can find anything. We're first going to start by removing the back cover. I'm going to start by removing the screws around the main board. And now we'll remove a few of the perimeter screws. And we do have one hiding right in here. And now we're going to lift this latch up and pull out. We have 2 screws around our power plug, and the plastic cover will come off. These 2 screws are a little different than the rest, so we'll keep them apart. And where the wall mount screws go, we actually have a couple plastic pins or plastic screws. We'll remove those. Now we can shift over. We have 4 screws over here. Our other 2 plastic wall mount screws. 1 more screw right here. This one should just wiggle out without a tab. And our perimeter screws next. Now you're going to want to be very careful as you're lifting the cover up because this is sheet metal. It's very sharp. You will cut yourself. Let's bring our focus to the main board. For the main board, we're going to first remove all the connectors, starting with this ribbon at the top. We have a little plastic latch. We're going to lift it up and wiggle the ribbon out. For this one, the latch flips from this side. Same with these 2 larger ones. Then for this clip, we're going to press down on the center and wiggle out. For this one, we're going to press from this side, pinch it and up. This one just wiggles out. This one will push down on the center clip, wiggle out, same with this one. And then this one lifts up, so we'll pinch it from these sides and wiggle up. And now we have 3 screws. And our 4th hidden one right over here behind the shroud. Now the board should lift off. These shrouds should come off. Next, we're going to take a closer look at the HDMI ports themselves at our workbench. So taking a closer look at our HDMI ports under the magnifier, we have HDMI 4, 3, 2, and HDMI 1 over here. As you can see, HDMI 1 is definitely offset. There's something going on here. And if we take a look at it at an angle, we can clearly see it's completely offset. So the port was physically shoved back, pushed back, and is no longer making proper contact on some of the pins. So let's see, I'm going to use my raking tool and see. Oh yeah, you can tell all of these pins are now loose, they're disconnected. Not a single one of these is making contact, so that makes sense as to why we're not getting contact. In contrast, if I rake these pins, not a single one of these moves, so that means that they are all good and soldered correctly. So because I fear this HDMI port might be physically damaged internally, we're going to go ahead and just replace it entirely with our replacement. So my first step is to add some solder to some of the pins on the back. We want to make sure we get good flow. There we go. So by doing this, we're just going to make it easier for us to remove and flow the original solder that's on the board and on the HDMI port. We're going to go ahead and add some solder to the top of the joint as well. There we go. Go ahead and do the other side. And I typically would have done the pins on the back, but since none of them are connected anymore, we don't need to. So next I'm going to be using my hot air, and we're going to be heating the port from the bottom. And we're going to use that solder that we just added as a visual indicator. Once I start seeing it flow, we'll go ahead and remove the HDMI ports. Not quite. I'm seeing the solder starting to change. There we go. And now while the solder's hot, I'm going to try to desolder the ground pads. Little less critical to get quickly are the actual traces for the pins. So let's flip the board over and see if I can get a little bit more of the solder out of that little top left ground. Okay, it's a little better, not 100%, but better. Before we install the replacement, we're gonna go ahead and give it a quick little clean with some isopropyl alcohol and my Q-tip. All right, beautiful. We're gonna go ahead and insert our replacement HDMI port. And it looks like it's lining up perfectly. All right, we're gonna go ahead and lock in the ground pads. Didn't do a great job, but we'll touch it up in a second. I just wanna lock in the other side first. That's better. Now we can touch up the other side. So I'm going to add a little flux on both sides, and I'm going to add a little bit of physical pressure downwards as I reflow. And that's just to make sure I am nice and flush to the board. Okay, and I think I am. Let's lock in the other two pins. And beautiful. All right, for the back pins, we're gonna also add a little bit of flux. And we just did switch the tip of the iron to something a little smaller, a little more precise. And it looks like I did add a little bit too much solder. Let's go ahead and remove a little bit of it with our desolder wick. All right, and I think that's pretty good. We have some shadows back there, so let's go ahead and clean it off. Try and get a better angle and double check to make sure that everything is as it should be. I see. So, all right, zooming in at a little bit better angle. I think the reason why it looks so dark is mostly because I must have melted a little bit of the plastic here, but I don't seem to see a short, so I think we're okay. One thing we can do is rake, and by raking, we're more or less guaranteeing that the pins are making good contact as long as they do not move, and none of them move, so I think we're okay. Let's go ahead and put the main board back into the TV, and we'll double check and make sure that HDMI port is now working. And I do want to show you, this is the back of the port. So I did not actually solder on the back of the port. This is just the solder flowing through with the flux, making a very good joint on the back, which essentially just means that we had very good heat transfer between the port and the pad and the iron. So I'm just doing a quick little final cleanup before we install it back in the TV. All right, so we're on HDMI 2. We're gonna go ahead and swap back to HDMI 1, which is the one we just fixed. And let's see what we get. And it does look like we have picture now. Let's go ahead and check our audio. And we have audio. If you found the video helpful or useful, make sure to leave us a like, subscribe for more content, and thank you for watching.